I think I've been waiting all my life to win a United Solo Award. I've certainly tried very hard. I was just thinking, sitting here, that we've done 3 solo shows in New York, and it's just been very interesting hearing people, hearing the awards and how people have probably gone about the shows. And somebody mentioned earlier how they praised you for creating a safe environment or a secure environment for rehearsing a show. But of course, the astonishing thing about a solo performance is that you can rehearse it anywhere, in a lavatory or an unsafe environment. And in my experience, actually, the latter have often been very, very fulfilling places. Some years ago, we performed The Wasteland here on 42nd Street. But we had rehearsed the older members of the group. And we had originally performed it in Brussels under a festival there, and we couldn't find a rehearsal room in Brussels, but there were lots of buildings in Brussels that said either a louer or a vendre. Everything was for sale or rented in Brussels. And so we were given instead a house in which to rehearse The Wasteland. We didn't know what The Wasteland was. It was just a poem, and I learnt it. I didn't know really what it was. And weirdly, as we rehearsed in every room of the house, we began to see the poem emerging in each room of the house. So soon, the house began to tell us what the poem was. There was one stuccoed room, and the chair she sat in, like a burnished throne, absolutely began to live very domestically in that little room. And so sometimes the place you're in, however destabilizing, can become a sort of inspiration. And subsequently, another solo, not solo entirely actually, it's a two-hander, but mainly the main speaker is a woman. We did Happy Days here, and we rehearsed that at the National Theatre of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And one of the most annoying things about the National Theatre is that when you rehearse a show, there's always coffee breaks just when you're getting something. In fact, that show, because Winnie in Happy Days has to sit, in a chair, sit buried up to her waist and then up to her neck. I used to rehearse it with sand sacks placed on my body so I could reach as much as I like without actually moving. But of course it caused various clottages in my legs, and I was lucky to survive. So every 20 minutes, we would stop every sort of 40 minutes or every hour or so. We'd play badminton for the next 20 minutes, and then we'd go back and we'd do this thing again. But so tedious did we find the National Theatre coffee breaks, and also a group of people that whenever I changed anything would suddenly write everything down. You think, don't write anything down. It's anything wrong or bad, and Deborah would sigh and bang. And the other thing was that Deborah used to look at me, and it was so desperately hard to do that play, because it's just fragments of thought that don't go anywhere. Unlike I'm sure some of the wonderful shows have been written here, which are thoughts going somewhere. That show is about thoughts not going anywhere. And, Deborah looked at me one day and she said, you're the opposite of a burning bush. And so bad was it that one day we just decided not to turn up in the rehearsal room at all. And we went down, I had a little house in the country in Thaxted, and we went down to Thaxted and then sort of set up a disciplinary sort of rehearsal period where we would cook, we would drink as much wine as we possibly could, and then we would meet in the little hall of my house. And she would sit on one side of the hall, and I'd sit on the other, and we could work away as much as we like. So often you can make a show, and then the Testament of Mary, for which I received this gratefully and delightedly. There's nothing like being given a prize for something that has begun to fade, and for which I nearly died. It's very, very gratifying. I'm delighted with this. But we rehearsed in London, and then we came to New York and hit just the beginning of what we're now hitting again, which is unspeakable cold that we're not used to. And I very quickly got sick, actually, in New York at the beginning of that rehearsal period. I got about 10 versions of the flu, followed by sort of what seemed like pneumonia, and then we opened it, and because I kept plunging myself into this pool of water and staying down a long time, I caught every bug that you had living in the waters of that, and I had a huge ear infection. So I sort of, you know, I couldn't hear the audience actually most nights. I could hear I could hear something vaguely that looked like an audience. But so rehearsal, safety or unsafe, I'm very, very glad that Omar and his team have made a safe place for you. But I just want to say that the extraordinary thing about solo shows is that they are written by one mind, or whoever is writing them, or groups of you, but they're actually dialogues with an audience. And in the end, the audience is nearly the primary writer. And that is what I think makes the future of the theatre so brilliantly exciting, that the thoughts that go on in our minds, the shared expectations, the shared visions, as in the Testament of Mary, that if there's the Virgin Mary, everyone has a view of her, and you get a chance to bounce that view off the received notion in the audience's mind and to shift it a bit. And if we can all write and perform and design and direct and shift the narrative in our heads, I think there's a great future for us all. Thank you very much.